What is going on, guys? It's Kyle with DTOM Knives and Gear, and what the heck? I'm not doing the face cam right now. I didn't decide to do the face cam right now because I really wanted you to see these knives. I am going to do basically a kind of a spur of the moment best small EDC in my collection, because you guys know that I regularly like bigger knives. Bigger knives are the things that actually get me excited. However, these knives that you see in front of you have stayed in the collection because they are excellent representations of smaller EDC style knives that work well with big hands. And, we're going to go through them and see which one I like the best. Obviously, there is one on the table that is way more expensive than the rest. And yes, that is, that is a thing. But the price points on these do vary. But I'm going to go over things that I like in an EDC knife, especially a smaller knife. There are certain things that I have to have, right? All of these have most of everything that I have to have in a smaller knife to make it work for my hand size and for my personal preference. These are my personal preferences. This is not the scripture when it comes to EDC knives. There are tons and tons of excellent choices for EDC knives out there. This is just a few that I have in my collection, and we're going to go over what makes me happy, what makes me excited and want to carry these particular knives. So we're going to go from left to right. And these are in no particular order. It's just kind of how I laid them down. This is the Leon Mall Field Duty EDC. In my opinion, one of the best EDC knives on the market today. This one happens to be the one in carbon fiber, titanium pocket clip with the wonderful ceramic ball on the pocket clip. Of course, a finger choil and an opening hole, two things for a smaller knife that I have to have. And this knife does it very, very well. It's a very slicey blade. The detent on this is absolutely amazing for the reverse flick. The particular hole is not the best for the thumb flick for me, but I never use the thumb flick. I always use the reverse flick, and this is one of the best reverse flicking knives that I have in the collection, the Leon Mall Field Duty EDC. You guys know I'm a huge fan of Leon Mall. This is one of the knives that I have kept in the collection. It will stay in the collection. The other one is the Urban EDC F5.5. This was a gift from my brother, one of my best friends in this entire world. This is the F5.5 Lefty EDC. Sent me this. I had purchased one of these for myself, and he was basically collecting all of these at one point. And so he didn't have the green micarta. It turns out he did not like the green micarta one, but I ended up selling it to him for a bro price. But I did love this knife. This knife was almost perfect for me for a smaller EDC blade. However, the stock choil size was too small for my big old fingers here. So what he ended up doing is sending it to BJ Hill, and he extended this choil out a tad. And then, of course, did some really great anno work on the hardware. Just made this thing different. And, of course, I love this knife. It came from Lefty, and one of my most carried smaller knives up until I got some of these other ones. The Detent. Riot manufactured too, wanted to say that. Riot manufactured here on the F5.5, and it's just a very, very good pocketable, smaller size knife, but has that finger choil now opened up enough to where my big fat finger will fit in there, and it's a very comfortable blade where I can get a good grip, locked in grip with these big hands. So yeah, the F5.5. This one definitely doesn't have the action. We're going to go over a little bit, but doesn't have the action like some of the other ones, but very, very smooth, still very, very satisfying. The QSP made, but this is the EMP EDC Nimble. This one was one that I got on a pre-order. Had a wonderful experience with EMP EDC. Just the company, the man behind it, John, is just an excellent dude. And yeah, I even got some bling here that he sent me. And I thought I wasn't going to like this Damascus, but dude, it's just so sexy. I have left it on. This one is one of my favorite knives as well, because as you can see, and I've got reviews on all of these, this is a fidget just behemoth, because you have so many different deployment methods. You have a back flipper, you have a front flipper, And then you also have a hole to do the reverse flick. So very fidgety. Again, not the best. These smaller knives are not the best for me doing the thumb flick, but all those deployment methods just make this knife a fidget magnet. And the ergonomics, this wonderful, generous finger control, again, things that I have to have in a small EDC knife, and this one definitely has that. The other one, of course, I just got in and I did the review of the Oz Machine Company Roosevelt. Now, this one is definitely more on the higher end premium knives, definitely more like a custom because it is a one-man shop, basically. Oz Machine Company, one guy kind of doing all the work, putting them together. And so, yeah, this one is high up on the list, is probably going to take the cake for most categories. But it should, right? Because of all those things that I just mentioned. This is an excellent, excellent smaller EDC knife that works well for big hands in this grip. Just an excellent slicey blade with this 2 detent ball system. That just really, really fires out of there. 100% just everybody knows about the Roosevelt who's in the community, and the hype is real. Go watch my video on that. And then, of course, we have the Quiet Carry Drift. Now, this one is the only one on the table that does not have a hole for deployment. This one has a thumb stud. Now, they do make a drift that has the hole, and I actually would like to trade for that. This one is the newer version, but I just think I'd like the hole. Now, that doesn't necessarily say, I mean, I can do the reverse flick on this. I really, really like this knife, but this is a knife that I use as a tool, and we'll kind of go over the uses for all of these knives and why they stick around in a second. But those are the knives that I have chosen to put in this video. They are the smaller knives that I carry most of the time. If I've got, I mean, sometimes I'll carry, especially during the review, I will carry multiple knives. I have a bigger knife and a smaller knife. These are the smaller knives that I almost always go to. Now, so there's a couple of categories that we talked about and we're going to go over. So detent is absolutely necessary for me to fall in love with a knife, really. Detent is key. I've got to have a good detent. If it has a weak detent, Kevin Lefty EDC has spoiled me. His bougie ass has gotten me to really, really care about the detent, and it is important to me now. All of these knives on the table have a great detent. Even this one, which is the only one that's also running on washers on the thumb deployment, it is absolutely snappy with the thumb flick and with the reverse flick. Just really, really cool. Like I said, I don't really mind the thumb stud. I just always prefer a hole if I can get it. And so I think I might do that. But as far as detent on this guy, it's dialed in exactly where it needs to be with this thumb stud. Probably the best middle finger flicking knife on the planet, in my opinion, is the Roosevelt. That 2 detent ball system is just amazing. It doesn't feel heavy at all, but yet it is light enough for me to be able to, or feels light enough for me to be able to slow roll this thing. And usually when I can do that, the detent is way too light. But this is like, it's not heavy. It's perfect with the way that it feels. And the reason I say that is because the difference between something like this and this has a heavy detent, which is why I like it so much. It's a heavier detent and it fires out of there, but it takes a lot more pressure to get this out and fly out of there than it does this. Oops, jeez, about to cut myself. Than it does this guy, but it fires out just the same. Really excellent design by Oz Machine Company, and that is why, of course, you know, this I just talked about. It's got a stronger detent, which I absolutely love, and fires out of there with authority on the reverse flick, and it just makes me happy every single time I do it. Probably the weakest detent that is on the table is probably the EMP EDC Nimble. However, it does get a pass because all of the deployment options work amazingly. The detent itself might be a little bit weaker, but it's because of all of these deployment options that you have. It's much more of a cumbersome task to have a detent dialed in, but like this one is, and have it work so well with every single deployment. It just is really, really difficult to do, and he nailed it. He really did nail it with this guy, and it makes it so fidgety. But this one does have the lightest of the detents, but it is a good detent. the F5.5. A lot of people just say this one is too strong. You know, obviously I don't, because I like the stronger detents. As far as on the table, none of these knives, when you're talking about smaller knives, the smaller blades, none of them, they don't really drop shut. Like, you know, something like the Koenig Arius. It's a larger knife, definitely high-end production. You have things like the Leon Mall Field Duty. This is my, this is the regular size. That is the EDC. This is the Detent and Action that I hold all of the knives to the standard. But it's a very big blade, right? So it actually comes out, and then it's got a lot of weight where it moves it down. These guys, not so much. So most of these, on the closing action, smooth as they may be, they are not fall shut. The only one that comes close to the fall shut action, which I enjoy, is the Oz Machine Company Roosevelt. It comes down like this, and as you can see, does not fall, but all I really have to do is start moving the blade upwards, and then it falls like that under the gravity. The other ones, like probably the worst detent of them all, or sorry, not detent, but the worst closing action is definitely this guy, the Drift, because it's running on washers. It will shake shut, but kind of you have to really shake it shut. I don't ever even do that. I always just kind of get the lock bar out of the way and do this to close that knife. Definitely not fidgety. That's why I say this is my tool knife. Van Eyck Super Clean. So, I mean, just basically a rust-proof knife, and that is why I keep this one in the collection, because of the ergonomics and all of those features. Nimble, kind of the same deal. Well, not the same deal as this, but same as all these rest of them, where it will fall basically to your nail and then not fall like this, and it's just a few shakes to get it down. Still very, very smooth. I would put them, as far as in category of this, maybe I should have done that before, as far as closing action, we're going to put, we're going to put it like this, because the F5.5 is closing action. It falls and it shakes. But I would say that this guy does it better, this guy does it better, and then there's basically where it goes as far as the closing action. Boom. So all the Roosevelt, the Nimble, the EDC, the Field Duty EDC, the F5.5, and then the Drift as far as closing action. Let's do the whole detent thing, because I didn't do that with the detent. I just kind of said, so if you want to see that, as far as the detent being the best, boom. That's kind of where they go, so, you know, from best to least. Now, all of these are good in all of these aspects. I'm just kind of putting them in order, right, for what I like. So let's now talk about ergonomics. So I love the ergonomics on all of these knives. However, the smallest one on the table is the F5.5, and that's the reason that this one kind of is the last on the list, because yes, I can still get a very good grip on this knife, but I've got very big hands, and even though this works really well, I love the jimping being way up here, so in my saber grip, I actually am on that jimping. Just an excellent design. However, because it's smaller, it just doesn't allow, I mean, even the finger troll on this is probably the smallest finger troll, even though it's been opened up. Smallest finger troll on the table. And so ergonomically, it's still a very comfortable knife, but if I was to put these in category, this would probably be at the last. The Nimble, it is a very ergonomic knife. Most every one of these knives, except for the Leon Mall, which we'll go over in a second, has, you know, the ability to choke back up. For me, I have a 3-finger knife. If it's a 3-finger knife in a choke back position, I don't like it as much. As you'll see here, backed up here, it just doesn't work for me. I'm always going to use that choil, and it is the same with the Nimble. But the ergonomics in this grip are just absolutely amazing. The jimping goes all the way up here, so I'm very locked in. It's just so, so comfortable. All of these knives are for real. And then, of course, your Drift. Similar ergonomic lines to, you know, even this, right? These things are kind of like the poor man's Oz Machine Company. A lot of people call it that, and I've kind of adopted that as well. But so very, very comfortable in hand. This one is a lot thinner. The one thing I do like about the F5.5 is the thickness, because it does fill my hand out a little bit better. But I actually get more grip angle or grip length. Or do I? Maybe it's just a... Let's see here. Hold on. I don't know. It feels like it, though. Maybe it's because it's thinner, and which, like I said, I like the thickness. But this guy really feels locked in the hand. But the finger control on this is still very, very small. And so that's why these two are kind of on the less comfortable side because of that. You know, the nimble, that's a very generous tool, and it works out. Now, the two most ergonomic knives on the table are going to be these two, and it's very, very hard to kind of choose which one I like the most. The reason the Leon Mall Field Duty is very ergonomic is because this is a very neutral hand size or handle, right? Because I can back up here. I'm still kind of a 3-finger when I back up, but you know, I am able to choke back up here and not really be feel like I'm cramped or anything like that. I mean, I can barely say I can get my pinky on there. So I actually can grip this knife in the backed up position. And then of course I can move up, and going back and forth is actually pretty not cumbersome because you don't have a whole lot of something in your way to manipulate your grip from where you want to go. So very, very comfortable, but it's because it's a neutral handle shape. And yeah, it's just, it just melts in your hand, but not like the Roosevelt. The Roosevelt is a little bit different, where the comfort, the amount of comfort that I have in this is about the same as here. However, I am much more locked in with the Roosevelt because of the way the finger control is done into the handle. It's kind of done the same way here, but you got a little bit more to the blade. Not a very big area here to distinguish that. I mean, I've got it, I'm locked in, but not near as locked in as I am with this particular design. It's deeper, but yet feels my hand out, and just, it is an extension of my hand when I hold it in this grip. I absolutely cannot use this in the backed up grip, though. Does not work for me. Right here, though, money. So ergonomically, it is going to be just that. It is going to be the Oz Machine Company Roosevelt. It is going to be the Leon Mall Field Duty, then the Nimble, and then it's still kind of surprising. These right here are probably pretty close to a tie, but I'm going to put the Drift and then the F5.5 and have them in order that way. Now, so Detent, closing action, ergonomics, those are really the things that drive me with a knife purchase and keeping knives in the collection. Those are really my most important. All of these knives cut really well. As far as cutting performance, none of them are bad. As far as, you know, all those tasks that I have to do on a daily basis, smaller knives to me are not work knives because they just, for me, I want a bigger knife, right? Whenever I want to go to work, it's something like the 80-10, right? That's a work knife for me. You know, it's a little bit bigger, a little sturdier. Even though all these are very well made, they're not like that for me. So cutting performance, I really can't say which one is, I mean, you've got possibly the thinnest behind the edge on the Roosevelt, and then the Leon Mall second. And then these three, I think, are around the same, but the cutting performance is really, really good. All of them have, you know, basically drop point blades, except for the F5.5 or leaf style drop point blades. I kind of have a thing, right? Those are my, that's kind of my blade preference as far as aesthetics for sure. I just really, really like it. They all are pretty utilitarian. You know, this one is about the most different as far as all of them are concerned, but they really get thin, you know, thin grinds, thin blade stock, and they cut really, really well. As far as, you know, we don't know who makes the Drift. We know it's made in China. We just don't know which, you know, this is Riot, America, and then also Chinese, but with QSP. So obviously, huge thing for me, even though that I have knives that are made outside of the US, that takes the cake for me. And my favorite is because this one right here is made directly here in the United States. That is huge for me. Okay, it's not a necessity. I understand. I've got a lot of knives made in a lot of different places, but it really is important to me to have a great representation of American genius. That's what this knife is to me. The design is different, but yet simple. It's just simplicity done perfectly. And you'll notice that if you watch my review of this knife. I really, this one has to take the cake for that is for me. And as far as aesthetics, it really is the most aesthetically pleasing to me, but it was because I got to choose, basically what I had here, because it was a custom knife basically. So no surprise there that this one is aesthetically more pleasing than some of the other ones. But if I had to put them in aesthetically pleasing categories, it would probably be, I hate to do this, but this is such a fun knife. But aesthetically, it's a very sexy looking knife. I think I just still would like the Roosevelt, the Leon Mall, the Drift, then the F5.5, and then that one. Even though I really love the aesthetics of this knife, I have to put them in that order. This is, like I said, off the cuff, guys. And I didn't write anything down. There is no scoring, really. I'm just kind of letting you know the knives that I have and where I put them in all those different categories. Where we have LC200N or Detent. We have LMAX steel. We have Van Eyck Super Clean. This is definitely my favorite steel out of all of these because Van Eyck Super Clean is stainless to the point where it's basically rust proof, as well as this, but better edge retention than the Detent or LC200N. You also have LMAX here, and then M390. I love M390. I think it's a great all-around steel that has a lot of great properties, does a lot of things right. The only other steel in my experience that I really haven't experienced that I think that will beat M390 will be MagnaCut, and I do have a knife coming in MagnaCut, so definitely stay tuned for that. I am really excited. It still might not be here for a little bit, but I am really excited to try MagnaCut. So anyways, guys, that's kind of it. I mean, there's so many more different categories that we can really talk about, but all of them, except for this one, have a thumb deployment. I like this particular shape. However, this shape really works well for me. This shape works well. This one, they're, just a different kind of length of a pill shape, and then you have the Leon Mall kind of slot here, and then this particular shape's on a couple of different knives. Matter of fact, the version of the Drift that has a hole looks a lot like this, and I really dig that. I mean, you have actual Spydercos that have holes, which work good, but I'll be honest with you, I really would rather have the elongated slots for my hole deployments than I would a hole now that I have been able to experience all of these. And so, yep, guys, I appreciate you stopping by. I don't want to make this video way too long. So, that's my take on it. Leave your comments down below. Let me know which one of these tickle your fancy the most. I get it. This one is kind of in a league of its own when it comes to EDC Knives price and where it's made, how it's made, all that stuff. But these are excellent representations of EDC Knives, and I highly recommend any of these knives if they are on your radar. If you like the aesthetics, if you like the way it looks, they are excellent choices. And if you want any other information, I've got reviews on all of these, or you can just hit me up. I will answer any questions that I can. I am not an expert. I just love these knives, and I love to talk about them. So, guys, stay safe in this absolutely fucking crazy world that we are living in, and we will see you in the next one.